What's up, guys? This is Frenchy Talent. So you may not know me, but I'm a demon of sorts, and when I'm not being an asshole, I like to do street fighting video games. So I'm gonna be Dalzim, and we're gonna fight Ken. Now, typically, Ken is one of the tougher opponents in the game. He tends to use his Dragon Punch a lot, but I think we should be able to take him down. Dalzim is one of the most random and unorthodox fighters between him and Blanca, and really, it's not that tough to learn the secrets of what he does. So, as the first fight in this game, I do lose it. So, you're getting a sense of the toughness of this, but the Yoga Fire is just as good as the blue fireball that Ken and Ryu do. It can block it, it can also block Guile's Sonic Boom, and I also tend to use that along with the Yoga Flame, but the whole thing about him is his reach. I mean, the only thing is he's just not as good up close, so you kind of want to keep your enemies at a distance, which, truth be told, this is really the first time I have played through the Dalzim run Street Fighter. So, I've owned this game for over 10 years, probably over 15 just about, and yep, that's a whole nother thing, is this basically turned 25 not too long ago, and the characters in these games actually do have ages. Now, I would assume every 10 years they just lower the age span, but Dalzim was born in 1952, so that lets you know nowadays he'd be in his 60s, but back in 1991 that was kind of the thing. So we're in a bathroom, and in the arcade version the water actually overflowed, but the Super Nintendo couldn't handle it. So for the most part, this is a pretty arcade faithful translation, and you know, most of the things are in this. The only thing is you couldn't play as the bosses yet, which they did with Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but they actually remade this game 4 times. So that's the whole thing there, is they remade this game 4 times. First it was the World Warrior, then it was Hyper Fighting, then it was the new Challengers, and then it was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I think the only difference with that 4th edition was just the fact that Akuma was in the game. I think it just reached a point where they had 16 fighters at that point in time, and it was just an extra little bonus to actually decide to beat the game. Now, Akuma was one of the best characters up to that point. He has a badass persona, probably a little bit more, has more flair than M. Bison does, but didn't really see the difference. I mean, this game did not come out for the Super Nintendo, so that's one thing there, is we did not get Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but we did get Street Fighter Alpha 2, which came out a couple years later. And then after that, Capcom just abandoned Nintendo, but still, we're by Ryu. Now, folks say that he's balanced, but he's actually pretty tough just because of his special moves. I mean, he has better special moves than a lot of folks. Everyone has their own instance, but Dalzim really doesn't have any special traits besides the fire abilities. And Zangief, the wrestler, or the wrestler dude, doesn't really have anything besides grapple moves, and you know, it just depends. I mean, that was the whole point of this game, was seeing how many folks would translate to what they do. But my roommate Acidic Roots is always like Ryu and Ken, but I didn't want to do those, so this sort of thing just makes me want to sip a Nas drink. That's my drink of choice, and I you ought to try it out when you have spare time.
Round 3, fight!
But yeah, the thing about Ryu is he really doesn't have anyone close to him. He's a complete loner. I think that the only real person that they ever show that Ryu knows is Ken. The only reason why he knows him is because they train at the same dojo. Now, I have actually... Now, there is a comic of the said series. It was released back in 2003 to like 2006 or so, but there was a comic based on this, and it basically focused on Ryu. There's been several more, but I think that that's basically the best version of it. So it's by Udon, which is spelled U-D-O-N, and I reckon that's definitely worth checking out. It encompasses just about every character from Street Fighter Alpha. They may not all get huge roles, but they do have, you know, speech and dialogue. So, but now we have our American hero, Guile, which he was actually a pretty sly character for the time being. Only thing is I don't know, it just feels, I definitely feel like he can whoop someone's ass, but the whole problem is just, I suppose there might not even be one. He was played by Jean-Claude Van Damme in the movie, so Street Fighter has been around, but... So, okay, we've taken on 4 different folks. You're really getting to see it. So Dalzim can float. That's an extra little thing. You made Guile bleed. He didn't like that too much. Alright, now it's time to break some bricks. We're gonna fuck around with this, see how well this turns out. You can also destroy a car. I think I actually like Final Fight's version a little better. Final Fight happens to be like the adventure version of Street Fighter. It actually does have characters in that game. I think Acidic Roots is going to do an LP of that game, and we're just going to kind of go from there. So now we're going to fight the big bad Zangief, who at the time, with the exception of Sagat, was the biggest and one of the most brutal characters. Now he can take you out in about 3 or 4 hits if he uses his right special moves, but you don't want to let him get his hands on you. He's from Russia, or USSR back then. See this move, that'll do it. But the color coding in this game is brilliant. That's really the whole thing. That's a big portion of that is, you know, Zangief's red and brown work pretty well. So that's a nod to the programmers for actually being able to know that this game would be graphically inclined. Then I was supposed the music was not bad either. I mean, these are actually pretty memorable tunes. This was the best-selling game of 1992 for the most part. Probably the most popular game of 1991. And the most requested sequel of 1993. So, between all that, you know, the whole craze. I mean, that was the thing about arcades back then, was they just went brilliant. They just went crazy. How many people just said, hey, let's get into a fight. And that was the whole thing. This guy, I think most characters have at least 1 or 2 weak people they are weak against. And I definitely think Dalzim's is Blanca. Maybe the other one would be E Honda or something, but I think it's these 2 kind of low hunching characters that happen to be the ones that give him the most issues. the Blanca wins, and then that'll cover this video. We'll get more of this pretty soon.
Round
Subscribe.
2, fight!